Hello and welcome to the podcast, Kerri Van Arsdale. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me, Amanda. Looking forward to this deep dive and just having another conversation with you.
Yes, because I featured on your Instagram live last month. Thank you for having me. We had a great conversation about autoimmune disease.
Yes, that was a beautiful conversation.
It was, and you've got a whole Instagram page dedicated to sharing information about your story and how you've healed from autoimmune disease. It's wonderful. I love what you're doing, and thank you so much for coming onto my podcast.
Oh, happy to be here.
So you're an autoimmune health coach, and after a multiple sclerosis diagnosis at 25 years old, you embarked on a mission to heal yourself. Through 7 years of health research exploring how inflammation affects our body's systems, you transformed your life and you're also transforming the life of others. So, Kerri teaches the science and techniques for proactive health through integration of a nutrient dense anti inflammatory diet, detoxification protocols, and self care practices. We can activate our body's innate ability to heal and thrive. And yes, I believe that too. And that's what we're going to chat about today. I love your love of herbalism, the potency of plant medicine, and regenerative farming practices, which I understand you integrate into your curriculum.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, beautiful. Well, you know, my podcast is all about sharing stories of resilience. So I'd love to actually start with understanding what resilience means to you.
Love this question and topic. I think resiliency to me, like deep down, like off the top, feels like just not giving up, like continuing to push forward and push past the hurdles that we are given in life, like whatever it might be, and just persevere. I think that word perseverance is in tandem with resiliency. It's just, like what are you going to do in your life to overcome these obstacles? Because, there's so many challenges that come with life, and there can be so much weight on those challenges, and sometimes you can just like succumb to it and fall into this trap and this victim mindset, or you can really kind of use it as a transformation and use it kind of like as a way to unravel and open up this whole other arena that life has to give you. So I think for me, resiliency really means just pushing past what challenges life gives you.
And you hit the nail on the head with it's how we end up transforming. And I also believe that that leads to a path of how we inevitably open up, because when we're challenged, we shut down, we're stressed, we're more rigid. And so
Mhm.
as we navigate transformation, it is a path all about opening up again, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And there's so much that it has to give you if you don't kind of get rigid in that, in the thought of the challenge and in the fear of the challenge. I know that that's something that you brought up when we spoke on the Instagram live. And it's just so true. It's like you can really get stuck in like the thoughts and the fear and the worry, or, you can learn these tools to really kind of be resilient and be flexible and just kind of sway with the challenges and the hurdles.
So how do we not get stuck in the fear? I mean, what do you think?
I think that I think it really comes back to mindset. And a lot of times, like especially with me, I feel like I would get so stuck in this like negative thought loop, and just basically like replacing whatever was getting me triggered into that negative thought loop and getting me stuck in that worry and that fear. I would replace it with something that was making me step out of that, whether it was like I would take my dogs for a walk, or I just like go sit in nature, or I really have used cooking a lot in my journey as like a meditation practice. And I talk a lot about it as like, a mindfulness practice. I get into the kitchen, I light a candle, I open up a cookbook, I put on like meditation music, and just finding those things that you can do to really replace like that worry or that fear-based
Yeah.
that loop.
Yeah. So I guess relaxation, reconnection, and de-stressing is the key.
Yeah, yeah. And like craft too. I know that you can probably agree with this. You just wrote a book, and there's a lot of areas where we can dive into our art and craft and, making things with our hands. I make art and I make jewelry, and it's almost like for a while when I was getting stuck in those fear-based thoughts, I would just get lost in like art and creativity, and almost in a way where it was like maybe like too much, but it was a way to like really just like, if I'm going to get bombarded with all these negative thoughts, then, I'll sit down and I'll sit at my craft table for a couple hours and just really, like get in the zone enough to where that's all I can think about.
Yes. I in hindsight, I've created and birthed the best things I've ever done when I'm really challenged.
Hmm.
I
I
guess
know it's
creative
beautiful.
component, isn't there? And if you let it
Mhm.
be that, yeah.
Yeah, that is a really true point. It's like a lot of beauty can come from it if you kind of allow it to open up to, you know, into your space and not get into that rigidness.
Yeah, it's creating flow, isn't it? As a kinesiologist,
Mhm.
it's always about that. It's like, how do I create flow in the body again through all the meridians? And it's very much about getting out of the head and the intellect, dropping more into the heart, opening it again, and connecting to our intuition and our wisdom, where we know what's right for us. We start to feel more safe, and therefore we relax, because you can't just say to someone who's stressed, just relax.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work like that. It's like, well, how do we physiologically and biochemically and structurally, biochemically, emotionally, and spiritually, how can we learn to feel more safe and relaxed? With the
Hmm.
many clients I've treated with autoimmune disease now, and particularly MS, it has been very much about treating past traumas that have made someone feel unsafe, and and and
Hmm.
and shifting the mindset and the biochemistry so that we can be more present in what's going now, and let
Hmm.
go of certain events that have occurred in the past that have put us into shock or have we've perceived as threat or unsafe.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think that just like telling someone like, oh, don't stress out about this, or hey, calm down when they're in like a fight or flight kind of scenario, for me is like kind of how I would talk to myself when I would get into those moments. And so I had to like relearn how to talk to myself. And I'm like, if somebody was stressed in front of me, my best friend was stressed in front of me, I'm not going to be like, hey, calm down. Like, in this tone, I'm going to say instead, like, hey, do you want to go for a walk? Or hey, do you want to talk about it? And I think a lot of what helped me was basically like learning how to talk to myself
Yeah,
better in a more supported and a safe environment, because I think we can be like our own worst enemy in some of that inner banter.
that's absolutely the root of stress. It's not just in the external environment, it's very much about what's going on in our own heads. And opening the heart is also a pathway of loving ourselves more in that way, and catching ourselves when we're hard on ourselves with our thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a big piece of it that I just don't think, there's so much emphasis on like, what kind of food are you eating? And, are you exercising? Are you drinking water? Like there's so much of the health realm that's focused on those things. And I don't think enough credit is given to like the energetic and the emotions. And
Yes.
and that whole side of things.
Absolutely agree, because you're not going to feel motivated to improve your diet or to exercise unless your mind's right. And the energetic, everything's
Mhm.
energy. And energy is more malleable than your physical body and more accessible than your emotions. And if we can get chi flow happening again and improve our energy and elevate our frequency, if you like, then it's going to inevitably shift your body biochemically and physically as well. Kerri, tell me about
Mhm.
your story. You were diagnosed with MS when you were 25.
Yeah, yeah. I had early diagnosis, quite a shocker for a 25-year-old. I was definitely living the good life. And, just not too many cares, really just, traveling a lot, like living life to the fullest, really enjoying myself, enjoying my 20s. And my journey started a little bit before 25. I went on a solo backpacking trip to mainland Mexico when I was 23, and had an amazing time. Spent a month and a half just traveling down in the Yucatan, um, and Oaxaca, and like all these areas of Mexico.
Mm.
And I came back with a really severe case of typhoid fever.
Oh,
And basically just wrecked my whole gut. I was in the ICU for 5 days and in the hospital for another 5 days. And the doctors didn't really know what to do with me. I was kind of like this mystery case for a while. Um, and I was just hit basically with multiple rounds of intravenous steroids and antibiotics
yeah.
until they figured out what was wrong with me. And then they prescribed me the
Oh,
right antibiotic.
your body would have taken a
So
hit. Like, oh,
yeah, yeah, it was a big hit. And because I didn't die, I was really happy when I came out of that, and didn't, the ER is there to save you in a scenario like that, but the follow-up care was very far and few between. And basically after that, I spent the next 2 years from 23 to 25 going from doctor to doctor, and specialist to specialist to try and figure out what was happening to me. And basically in that really horrible infection that allowed for the pathogen of disease into my body. And so, yeah, I was diagnosed finally at 25, which was kind of like a blessing at that point because I had run from so many doctors, and was just happy to like have an answer at that point.
did they
So yeah.
connect? Did they connect what happened in your travels to the onset of MS?
No, no
Yeah.
doctors ever put that together. And I don't think it's necessarily like, their fault or anything. It was just it's like in that scenario, you go from so many doctors, so many specialists that it's really hard
It
to
may not
get
be precedent
one.
either. Yeah.
Mhm. It's hard to get one person to like listen to your whole story, and they're so busy and you have such a short little chunk of time with them, sometimes only like 5 minutes, and you have to, um, really like just be your own investigator.
Do you think the havoc that was created in your gut and in your nervous system and all the systems of your body going through that high fever and typhoid and then all the steroids, antibiotics, all of that, do you think that was a catalyst that led to an MS diagnosis?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I already was, my nervous system was already affected. I was born with meconium, an illness that babies get through birth. So I had a stressful birthing experience with my mother, and meconium affects the nervous system. So I already had like this weakness, underlying weakness,
Yeah.
and I didn't really figure all of this out and put all the pieces together until I
Yeah.
started working with a functional medicine doctor where we did a health history, and I had, you know, I essentially paid for more time with a professional where we could, kind of figure this out and get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I relate. Like when my twin sister and I were really young, We were exposed to some high heavy metals and mercury poisoning, and that was, and when we were younger, we were also a cesarean because we were twins and we came early, so we didn't go through that birth canal for the good gut health. Mum also had poor gut health, and lots of antibiotics. I remember as a child, because that was the generation, just hit it with antibiotics. And I think that just created this environment where it was already susceptible. My twin sister was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when we were 11. So there was already that vulnerability like you. And then the patterns I've noticed in treating clients is if there's a vulnerable baseline going on and then something, creates extreme stress, could be a car accident, it could be a massive ending in someone's life, trauma, or like your typhoid, it can sometimes lead to an MS diagnosis. I've seen it many times, and I wonder whether they're, adding this into the research books as well, so doctors can start to connect, which is why a lot of the work, as we're talking about today, is getting the body back into homeostasis, feeling balanced, removing perception of threat, so that we can be more present in the moment now and let go of that from the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a big missing piece that I think more people are starting to focus on. More and more people are starting to like ask the questions and like pinpoint the things.
Yes. Yes. And so what was the hardest part about when everything was really, really hard for you? What was the most difficult part that you remember? Was it at your diagnosis, or was it during those years between 23 and 25 when you still weren't feeling well but didn't really have answers yet? Like, what was the worst part of your journey?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It was really those 2 years in between where I just like it was so the symptoms I was experiencing and like the hop around from specialist to specialist. And I think really I didn't have anyone like listening to me. I was getting gaslit a lot by doctors. There was no answers. And I think just being in that space, not knowing and having these unknown symptoms, was probably like one of the scariest moments of my life. And it was really hard to and rocky with friends because I did not know how to explain to the friends that were around me what was happening to me. And at that age too, it's like you're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Um, my friendships were really important to me, and the way that I was perceived by my friends was, it was really of high value. And the fact that I couldn't communicate that to my friends and communicate
Yeah.
what I was going through, and also just feeling so different, I wanted to just still feel like I could, like go out and, eat whatever I wanted. And just all of those elements, like, the friendships and relationships, to like not having doctors being, able to listen to me in the right way. And I also didn't have the knowledge of finding doctors that could listen to me, and that whole aspect of, being your own health advocate and saying, if this doctor isn't working for me, I'm not going to, give you my time anymore as well. And I'm going to go seek a doctor that is going to listen to me. I didn't have any of that basis or knowledge.
And is
So
that
yeah, I
why?
definitely.
Yeah. So is that why your passion is so much about herbalism and plant medicine and regenerative farming practices? So what did help you once you did start to find, I imagine after doing work with a functional medicine doctor and piecing it all together, what was the first thing that started helping that led to the next thing?
I think that the first thing that really started to help me was definitely cooking, meal prepping, looking at what I was putting into my body. That started to make me feel better. I started to learn more. Um, and that led to, diving down into learning more and more. And eventually that, started to unravel my whole love of herbalism and finding which herbs were going to help me in different phases of my life.
Yeah.
But definitely what I was putting into my body, that first piece was very, very powerful. And once I started to feel good and really clear the fog away, I started to, just really want to learn more and educate myself more and buy the books and listen to the podcasts.
What was your nutrition protocol? Was it like a Walls type of vibe?
Yeah, so that was what I really started out with, that and the autoimmune protocol. I did the autoimmune protocol for like the first year. Just really like it helped me to clear the gluten and the dairy and the refined sugars and
Yeah.
really like learn how to cook in a more nutrient dense way and like eat tons of vegetables and
Yeah.
really start incorporating more nutrients into each meal. And
Yes.
then from there, I kind of, um, reintroduced different things and then went more into like a Walls protocol aspect and really like focusing on those 9 cups of vegetables a day and just
Yeah.
learning how do we eat 9 cups of vegetables a day? Um, was a really
Yeah.
big thing for
Yeah.
me. And I still eat that way. And it's so nice to have gotten the foundational piece so early on, because now it's just like,
Yeah.
it's in there and I don't have any like cravings or regrets because I know how it makes me feel. And when I feel good, it's like the craving or the thought of like eating a piece of pizza, it's not even there anymore. Those
Do you
years are gone.
sometimes cheat? Like, do you sometimes have some nachos or some pizza or pasta sometimes?
Not, no, not really. I mean, I guess the only thing I really will eat is like sugar or something like that
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
on occasion.
That's
Something
your
really
vice.
sweet.
Yeah. My
And
vice is
my life.
nachos, but I just try and make them healthy.
Yeah, that's good. And it's good to not be so strict and rigid and have the things that make you feel like you are satisfied.
Yeah.
That's also a very healing thing for me. Like when I did the AIP, I didn't have almond butter for like a year, and eating almond butter again was just like it was so
Yeah.
so incredible.
Oh, cool. So after nutrition, what was next?
After nutrition was probably herbalism. I mean, I always had a very deep passion for plants and for herbs. And I just started diving into herbalism. And then from there, I really started, it was herbalism. And then it was really my self-care practice through herbalism. I learned to like infuse herbs into different body oils and started to like self massage and do,
Mm.
these really like long herbal baths. And
What kind of
um,
herbs? Like, do you mean cooking herbs, or do you mean more like a herb that you would go and see a naturopath for that is more medicinal?
I mean, like the common weeds that like people think are weeds, like, milk thistle and red
Yes.
clover
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
these types of herbs, mullein and plantain. And um, I just started discovering them pretty much out in wild in real time.
What kind of
And
doctor taught you about herbalism before you started implementing it yourself?
um, I would say probably my naturopath.
Yes.
She was very keen on like herbal teas and overnight infusions and where you brew the tea overnight, you let it steep and you
Yeah.
get this beautiful mineral tonic. Yeah, she kind of like opened my eyes to like all the other things you can do with herbalism and how you can incorporate these herbs into your life.
Do you think that calms your nervous system? Like, why do you love herbalism, do you think?
I do think it calms my nervous system, and I think that in a way too, it acts in a part of like strengthening my craft and just calming me down. Like if I'm out in the wild and I see an herb, like I stop and I look at the herb, and I'll come back into the house or when I get home or get my herb book and find the herb in the book and read about it, and it just kind of
Makes you
develops this
mindful. Yeah, it makes you
craft
mindful.
mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also herbs can help us with our mind to actually chill it out, relaxing it a little bit. Certain herbs can help the overactivity in the brain and gut health.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful journey with herbalism. Like when you learn about one and then it kind of gives you this whole story and you learn how to use it and you learn how it's affecting your body and then you
Yeah.
discover another herb and then another one and it's just a beautiful
Yeah.
journey if you can get up to it.
Yeah, and like food is medicine, are also plant medicine as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like a wild herb or something that's unfamiliar. It can be like oregano or mint or, peppermint or any of these other herbs that we know that are like, kitchen herbs, rosemary.
Yes. Well, in my Happy Food online course, the main thing I learned on my nutrition studies was using more herbs instead of, salt when cooking, because it's deep in flavor, but also, really good for us in a medicinal
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a spiritual thing too. I think just you said it, where it's like it helps you get mindful, helps you
Yeah.
get creative, it helps you, like learn a craft with your hands and a connection to a plant.
And it's nourishing, isn't it, when you're cooking for yourself and you're cooking for others? And that moves us into self-care. Like, what are your self-care practices?
So I kind of like hop around and really just kind of feel into what my body is needing at different times of the year. But I love like detox baths, and
Yeah.
I love sweating. I have a little like, sauna like that you get into and zip up. Um,
Yeah.
Love to sweat, love like the light therapy, um, love dry brushing and tongue scraping and just these ways of getting the lymphatic system moving.
Yes.
And just being, having like a little, like there's all kinds of things that are, you can spend money on, but there's so many things that cost nothing. I think, for me it's like self-care means like when I'm in a stressful moment, talking to myself like I would a friend and being like, let's go for a walk. And laying on my yoga mat and just focusing on some deep box breathing,
Yeah.
just like the simple things, exercising when I know that I need it, getting my like body moving. There's very few things that movement doesn't help. Like maybe if you're
Totally.
injured, but like anything mindset, it's like movement is just the best.
It is. And just like when we make our bed in the morning, and that translates into how we show up in the day and what we might achieve and how we might move forward and what we can get done in a more relaxing self-care way, if we're doing, beautiful, cooking beautiful food, drinking beautiful herbal teas and the light therapy, the baths, the breath work, that's going to translate into, kinder, more compassionate self-talk, and how our thoughts transform into feelings. And then that dictates our biochemistry. And we want to promote growth and repair when living with autoimmune disease to heal, or anything to heal, versus that fight or flight stress response. And that's beautiful. You've inspired me to really ramp up my herbal medicine. I could really do that a bit more. Do you know my dad, we found in his garage a beautiful book that would be at least probably 100 years old, from a late auntie who had all the plants, dried plants in all the pages, and all the like milk thistle and all the different plants and it was so old school. And I've realized, yeah, people in the family were into it back then. So that
Wow.
definitely got passed down to me.
Oh my God, I love that because yeah, when you find the old herbalism books, and that's so amazing that it was like someone in the family, because that's in your ancestry. But yeah, when you find
Yes,
these old herbal books, you realize how much of our um, medical and healthcare 100 years ago was really based around these amazing plants.
exactly. So how's your health now? Like, do you experience symptoms? Are you on any treatment? Like, how are you now?
So this year and last year, I have been, knock on wood, I've been really good, very few symptoms. And I really believe that it's like the accumulative effect of just, a number of years like just smashing into my my body, the self-care and the food and the movement and the meditation. And it's just like I've inundated my body with this whole arena of good practices and self-care and good quality food. And that's what I really have to thank for it. But yeah, the last 2 years have been very symptom free. I did have like a pretty scary episode back in 2022 in the spring of that year. Um, And each symptom just really kind of pushes me to learn more and just kind of shed more layers and heal a little bit more. But right now, I'm not on any treatment. I didn't have the best experience with Western medicine. I know that it works really well for some people. For me, I had horrible side effects with each treatment that I tried.
Yeah.
And I realized that for my body and my system, that I was just going to focus on the detoxing and the cleansing and clearing of what had happened to my body, and rebuilding my gut
Yeah.
has been a huge piece of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you got a great neurologist that supports you?
Yeah, I've got a great team. I've got a great neurologist,
Right.
a great team. Like, it takes so many people
Yes.
to like really, kind of build you up and support what you're doing. And yeah, I've got a functional neurologist and a Western medicine neurologist to actually, and I've got, have had a lot of different like acupuncturists and naturopaths and a
Yeah.
lot of different people throughout my journey that have really kind of helped me pave the path that I wanted to be on.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, do you have you ever tried kinesiology?
I have not, but I'm super interested. I went down like a wormhole of, wanting to go back to school for kinesiology, and had a really beautiful experience with a physical therapist last year, and got really inspired, but know very little, only from what you have really talked to me about and opened up my world to. But yeah,
I
I'm
can show
very
you.
interested.
I'll show you one day because I do it on Zoom as well. So
Oh, wow.
I can share that with you, that very
Oh my God,
beautiful art of kinesiology. It's my absolute passion. So
I would love that.
yeah, me too. So how many years have you had MS for now?
I'm coming up on 12, let's see, 25. I'm coming up on 10 years.
Wow, you're
Which
doing
is
so
crazy.
well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Um,
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Yes, it is a journey and you are doing exceptionally well. And thank you for sharing, not just today, but on your Instagram page, and all of your links will be where everyone can find you. Your Instagram is Kerrica, isn't it? Kerrica
Yeah,
on.
you said it right too. That's a nickname I was coined when
Oh,
I was young
gee.
by all my friends, and just kind of stuck with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I love that you're sharing all the knowledge of what's helped you, because other people will be at the start of their journey too, confused, not feeling well, not understanding where to start. And really, it's really about, optimizing your mindset so you can start to feel better. And for both you and I, we've spoken about how nutrition was the real foundation of that, that can then lead to more motivation and confidence and those happy serotonin hormones that you need to keep persevering, to have that resilience to move forward and to transform, so that you can open up your heart again after feeling so stressed, because it's a lot to go through. It's a lot.
A lot. It's a lot, and a lot of times you feel alone. And so for anyone out there, I just want to really like express that you're not alone. There is, such a wealth of knowledge out there, and there's so many new things to come, and there's so much support. And
Exciting. There's so much
oh,
support and there's just so much around. And if you are diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, it's not an death sentence at all. That you can live successfully and thrive despite that.
yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. I love this. Well, do you have any final tips that you want to share with the audience today?
Uh, just, I think just really like loving yourself and being present with your, who you are on a deeper level, and knowing that this is just a hurdle that life presented, and there's always ways through.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Thank you for being on the podcast, Kerri. It's so beautiful to see you today. And you're in LA, aren't you? What time is it there?
So it is, I think, almost 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's nearly 11 a.m. there. So thank you for sharing your part of your evening with me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, your morning, my evening.
Yes, thank
And it's
you.
great to connect with you, and we're on totally different spots of the world.
I
So beautiful.
know, I know, and we'll definitely do it again soon.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Amanda, for having me. This was great.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bend Like Bamboo podcast. I would love you to rate it and share it with your community or anyone that you think might need to hear this episode. If you would like to discover the power of flexibility and how kinesiology and the Bend Like Bamboo program can help you, please book in for a free discovery call on my website, bendlikebamboo.com under bookings, or email amanda@bendlikebamboo.com. You can see me one-on-one in Melbourne or on Zoom remotely. My book, Bend Like Bamboo, is now available on my website and bookstores online. And I'm also taking new clients into the 2024 Bend Like Bamboo 6-month program of monthly sessions taking you through all the lessons, tools, and strategies that I detail in the book, helping you to de-stress and reset and to reimagine what can be possible in your mind, body, and life. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast, and I will see you at the next session.